are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
I have to start by saying I'm a huge fan of your work.
Thank you very much.
Blade Runner, Tron, some of my favorite films.
See, if you hang around long enough.
I've always loved Tron. So I think a lot of people won't realize, I believe you created the lightcycles in Tron.
I did, and I also created the logo. You know, the alphanumeric alphabet characters, yeah.
Back then, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe I remember that it didn't win the Oscar because they thought the computers did everything.
Exactly. There were classic animators at Disney, the releasing studio, that would not work on it.
Right.
Because they were using computers.
Right, of course.
I mean, you know, who knew?
When you think back on, because I want to talk about also Blade Runner, but when you think back on Tron, is there a day or two, or like what do you remember from making it that sticks with you?
Tron was a game on the backside of a CRT. There was no weight, no gravity. It was graphical, and I plugged that into my design mentality, and that's what I came up with. The light cycles. They were digital images on the backside of a screen.
When you make something like Tron, or you're involved in a movie like that, do you get a lifetime pass to Disneyland?
No.
That's messed up. Absolutely. But I want to jump in a little bit with Blade Runner, because I believe you created the spinners.
Yes, I did.
Right.
Now the spinner was called a spinner in Philip K. Dick's story, which most people don't know.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about designing for Blade Runner, can you talk a little bit about the collaboration that you did with Ridley on that film?
Ridley had a lot of stuff to do, and you probably know he was almost an adversarial. He and Michael Dealey with the money people. There was a wag in New York that made the remark that the financing for Blade Runner was at least as interesting as the story.
Well, when you think back on the designing process of Blade Runner, did you realize at the time this is going to be a film that people remember for decades and it's an iconic film?
You can't know that. You can't possibly know that. If a movie comes out, if enough people like it, fine. If they don't, it doesn't go anywhere. And the VCR saved Blade Runner. It was one of the top rental movies for a couple months at least that.
Well, talk a little bit about the design process when you worked on Tron, Blade Runner, stuff like that.
I read the script, and I didn't read the book until after I'd worked on the movie, because I thought, Ridley's God, as long as you're working. And but I knew that it was a gritty world. I'd been doing design work for corporations and for 20 years before I got involved in the movie business. So I read the script, knew it was a dystopian world, and that sort of dialed in the whole patch of design process. I thought, let's use India and the Philippines and at that time Cuba as a model for making things last longer than they originally were supposed to last. So you overlay detail onto an existing format, and that gave it the look. We called it trash chic.
Sure.
Or retro deco.
Well, I mean, it's even the little things in that movie, like the umbrellas. There's so many just really cool things in that movie.
One of the strong points of Blade Runner still is that it never violated its technological premise. You were in the same world from start to finish.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, Denis, Roger Deakins, a bunch of people right now, Harrison, are coming back to work on a sequel. When you heard that they were going to make a sequel, what's your initial thoughts?
I thought, good luck. I mean, think of what they're trying to do.
Sure.
And Ridley had described the opening scene, this wheat field and the big machines moving across. It almost reminded me of Journey to the 12 Presidents, which was going to be his next film. Never happened.
I have to ask, have they asked you to participate at all in the sequel?
Directors and the whole machinery of making, they rarely use the same people. Now, Spielberg has a core cadre that he uses over and over, but they don't normally go back to the original crew.
I have to thank you so much for your time, and it's honestly a pleasure to meet you.
All right, take care.
Thank you so much.